So, because he's been helping with some of the stewardship stuff, and he's been coming and helping. He's awesome, and so, but he's got some things on his plate right now, so it could be.
I don't know what.
Okay.
He's just got
Set up, but that was
some
Okay.
stuff he needs to deal with before he can.
Yeah, I don't think we were ever figured it out, so thank you.
No, it's
Yes.
something.
Yeah, he's just showed up.
All of the meetings
Okay, come on, so I think.
in the future.
Oh, yeah,
all of the
okay.
And you know
meetings
how
are
fun that
gonna be
is.
under
Yeah.
Anna's email, we're not gonna do the chat.
So, okay, good.
And he came twice for that.
Right.
Okay.
So I think you've let these people in, right?
He's been with
So
us.
and you
No, 3
recording.
times in the
Good.
past.
So I guess the
Okay.
show
All
up.
right. So they're up.
They're up.
Okay, I'm gonna head back home then so I can hear.
Thank you very much.
How you doing,
Appreciate you
Patrick?
parachuting in. I'm good.
Good, how's Susan?
She's like,
Minutes or is it a good time?
Don't worry about this.
Big strain.
Doing Norm.
When they're done, get the next person, is that it?
Got a good dog run.
How do you feel?
Or I don't even do anything with
Yeah.
this master switchboard over there, with cameras and all that, it's like, nope, not gonna do that. All right, we'll fake it then.
We'll do that, yeah.
Okay.
Point on the muscle up.
Good.
Pretty much the same speeds, they were just cutting around.
Where did you go? Where were you?
Paul Run and stuff like that.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Private dogs.
That's great.
Yeah. Good for you.
So we're gonna go for that walk.
Anytime.
Yeah, I know,
Looks like-
I know
Yeah.
people that go.
Just get
Some really interesting ones too.
Yeah, no, I mean, the kids get off school starting like the week of the 20th, so I got,
Well, wait,
yeah,
well,
my schedule.
once I hit resume, I guess we're gonna go live.
Yeah, we're gonna go live.
Yeah. But we can even, I've even had them play at that playground by Kathy. If I have to have a kid with me, we could, but I may not.
You can walk around the block and.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
We'll see.
Okay, we're gonna go try to get started here.
Take care.
Sorry, people out there. All these technical difficulties getting these meetings up and running, so hopefully in the future, there'll be someone assigned to that rather than different volunteers each meeting. So at this point, we do have a quorum, so we can just call the meeting to order at 4:21. Welcome to the public. I don't see anyone in this room in the public, but I do know there's some people on Zoom. So thank you for attending. We need to adopt the December agenda that was sent out. Want to make a motion? Motion. Support. Chris will support. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Also, we need to approve the minutes from October. The November meeting, we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't adopt those minutes. So if there's a motion to approve the minutes from October.
I'll move.
Steve?
I second.
Second.
I don't know if I can second the minutes, but.
Chris will second. You say?
I wasn't at that meeting either, but I'm happy to second it. if I'm allowed to.
I'll second it then.
Okay. Any changes or corrections? The minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carry. So now we're on to public comment. There's no one here from the public in the room. Chris, is there anyone that's raised their hand?
No, I did not see where you guys there.
So I guess there's no public comments at this point in time. Moving on to TAP business, report from the Parks and Pathways Director, Anna. Perfect time.
Hi.
Hello. Any report you like to give to our TAP committee?
I will just briefly report that the Spark grant is underway. I'm working with Chris Nordstrom to get the images all together, and I'll hopefully have that for you all to review shortly. It's due on the 19th, And this is the project we talked about that connects West Scio through beneath Scio Farms and then to Stapler. I'll also report that Scio Outside is dormant for the winter, the community engagement program, and will be revamped in the spring. That's all.
Obviously, Anna's doing a lot of work with the whole pros plan thing, combining these committees and besides their normal tasks. So the end of the year stuff, so it's been probably a lot busier than normal.
Yeah, actually, that does remind me, if I can add one more thing. The pros plan is public and is up on the website in the parks section and advertised on the homepage for public review.
Excellent. So, any
It's on
questions?
the Parks website, on the Parks page.
Mhm.
I do have a question when talking one of our previous meetings just about public engagement, public awareness, the kinds of things to do in addition to putting things on the Scio website. Are there other ways of reaching out and engaging the community that you've gone ahead with and or have in mind for the future?
Yeah, I've used the Scio Township Next Door. There's a parks page on that, or I guess I should say like a parks profile on the township next door that I use. And then I think Jim and Will are heading a revamp of the newsletter to go out this winter. So there's also a parks article going out talking about Scio Outside, a restoration project at Marshall, and just letting folks know that my position was created and hired.
Okay. Are there avenues for feedback on those reaching out and engagement kinds of, I mean, if you get the newsletter, I suppose you could call, but I mean, are there ways in which there are either links or send a comment kind of electronic engagements?
On the website, I have a few spots where I link to my email address so people can reach me. And then for the pros plan, there will be a public hearing to hear feedback.
And that date's on the website, no doubt? Okay.
Yeah, and then people can always reach out on Nextdoor too.
Great, okay, yeah, thanks.
Questions? Thank you. Anything else? Yeah. I guess moving on to TAP business, we have a motion to merge Parks and Recs Advisory Board and TAP to create a new committee called Parks, Preserves and Pathways. Also here is Rita from Parks and Parks Advisory Board. Norm, you're on that board too, or we're on that board. It's sort of, we're all a little bit in transition. So I appreciate you guys coming today as we're sort of all learning this as we go. But this has been talked about probably starting back in August. There are similar tasks done by both committees. And it's sort of like, and actually Rita, Ann and I sat down, went through both the charge, the policy, the ordinance. And you can see when first Parks was set up, then I think 2 years later, TAP was set up. And there are a lot of similarities between the two charges. They all funded under the millage that was approved in 2020. So, like last year when we were doing a budget, TAP, we did a budget, Parks did a budget, and, it's sort of last minute, but trying to merge those together. Having one committee could help streamline that. And some of the work that TAP does are the pathways. So that was some of the stuff. We sent out drafts of that, and I think the township board and township elected officials are reviewing the policy, the charge, and the ordinance. And those will actually probably go in the township next Tuesday, the 13th.
Yeah, ideally.
Potential. So there is, that's a little bit of background. I don't know, Anna or Rita, if you wanted to give any more insight, background, anything.
I think one key background data point is Chris Nordstrom from Carlisle Wortman, who works with a lot of townships, gave us the data point that it's very common for when there's a millage covering parks and pathways to have one committee operating under that millage. And so I think that could just provide context as to why we're merging.
Yeah.
And I'll say that a lot of the language that we looked at was needed to reflect that now we have Anna. And so that position as the director, that does kind of change how things get reported to the board and what we collaborate on and what falls under her umbrella, her job and things like that, so.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of townships too, and yeah, generally they just have one parks commission, not two different parks boards, advisory boards or commissions or committees. And, you know, they make recommendations and having one director, because I mean, you could have a situation where we had our top 3 or 4 or 5 priorities, parks and sort of like, and then, you know, we need this much money, and sort of like, then I don't know if it'd come down to the director's position at the time, it just, you know, create, you know, rather than just having one, let's figure out what makes sense moving forward. So that's what's been looked at. Like I said, I think at this point, there is a motion. I think it's on, what page it's on.
It's right after the minutes. No, it's, yeah, right after the minutes.
Yeah, it's actually on page 23.
Right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I got thrown on.
Yeah.
So it's before that.
It's like page 8 or 9.
Page 9, I think, shows the
Oh, there it is.
ordinance, parks and pathways.
Yep. So is there a motion to, I mean, is there any further discussion on this from any of the committee members, Patrick, Steve, Chris?
I'm pretty convinced, I'm convinced now that this is the right thing to do.
Does someone want to move this said motion?
So I'd like to do it since I'm the only person here that was here from the beginning. I move that we accept the motion to merge the TAP and PAB committees.
Form a new committee.
Form a new committee called the Parks, Pathways and Preserves Committee.
Is there support for that?
I would be honored to support Patrick.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then the next motion is we need to approve the PROS plan, the 2023 to 2027 plan. I know Chris has been working on this for more than 12 months, I believe. So I mean, obviously, if you looked at the document, it's a huge document. It's amazing all the data that's in there, all the information that's in there. So I mean, I know Ann and others, I mean, there's been a lot of people working on it. And it's still in, I guess it's nearly final form. It's not in its final form, but we're still gathering information. But generally the recommendation is this committee, obviously, I'm not sure this committee probably didn't exist when it was approved last time. Or maybe it did, I don't really know. But anyways, it's recommended that we approve the PROS plan so they can go to the township board and continue to get public input. And then eventually in the first of the year, it'll be formally adopted. And that just is sort of sets up the framework for Anna's position, the director, you know, where we're going the next 4 or 5 years. Also allows us to get DNR grants from the state, and it also allows you to get other funds because you actually have a plan. So I think it, you know, it's something, you know, most townships do. If you really want to, you know, engage the public and find out what their priorities are. So I know, Chris has done an amazing job on it. I mean, when I look at it, it's like, whoa, you can see why. I mean, I don't even want to know how many hours he spent on it.
I think it should be a gift that's given to every new committee member. And there's just so much information there. And it's so well organized and visually accessible.
Right.
It's an important resource.
Right. And it has all the background and it has, you know, the data points from what's going on in the community, the region, you know, what the priorities are. So when people ask, you know, why are you doing work? We're here. Well, we've got information. That's what the community wanted. You know, that's why this is a priority. So that's, you know, not only just the village, but this report. So, you know. So is there any other Anna, you want to say anything? Rita, say anything on this before we take action on this?
I think it's still a work in progress. It's probably the only thing to note is that I'm not sure that it's a final.
No, because we got the community review that has to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so we're approving it as the draft condition, so it can keep moving through to the township, so the township, they can go out for more, for they actually set up the public hearing. So there is a motion on page 23. Would someone like to approve that? Move the motion.
I'll move. Yes.
Steve,
So we probably need to change it since since it is not the final. Right? It's still. We still have to wait for public feedback.
Right, so should we approve, is this considered, it's more than that, is it still the draft or is it what?
The most recent one he emailed to us was called draft.
Final draft, maybe? Still.
I know he really wants our vote on this. But it's a draft.
We could modify it here, Brad approves parts are the most current version of the current draft version. Because there was everything.
Yeah, let's see, how would you say that? Prior to public input, what kind of modifier do you put in there for that?
I mean, I guess if we just approve the current draft version,
Yeah.
maybe that might just
That makes
suffice.
sense.
Yeah,
That
I
does.
think,
Yeah.
I think that's short and sweet enough to cover all the possibilities.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. It's current. It's going to be continued to be
Right.
moved up, and it is still draft. So I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to edit that, if Steve's fine with that,
Sure, yeah.
Ian, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, so this is, you're looking at the document that Chris sent to us to approve of it, got it.
it's called a draft still, correct?
Yeah, he has it called, yeah, draft prior to public review.
Should we
So
say
prior to
what
public
date
review?
that draft is? Because there are many drafts prior to public review. Should we put a date on that draft in the motion? Or, I don't know, do we need,
Is there
I
a
think this
date
one's
on it?
called official draft for public review, if that's something.
okay,
And it is 12/6/22.
So most current, official public, draft for public review.
Dated
as of December 6th.
12/6.
Yeah, the PDF is dated 12/6.
That would work.
Okay.
Patrick got all that.
Yep.
That modification.
I'm on for it.
All right. Is there a second? Support for that motion?
I second.
Okay. Patrick says. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Chris, if you're watching. All your work.
Great work. Yeah.
New business, none, old business, none. It's on the agenda. Does anyone have anything? Also, just for, I guess, clarification, this might, well, I think this is our last TAP meeting. So I guess I appreciate everyone's, commitment, involvement, on this committee. And obviously, Patrick, you've been here since day one, so thank you, for all your years of service. The new committee, Parks, Pathways, and Preserves. I'm not sure exactly the process, sounds like there may be an open call, so members, if you are interested, Steve, Chris, since you're on planning, how those all merge together and create this new committee. Rita, Norm, Patrick, whoever, public, like I said, we were appointed, we're on the committee, we don't make the appointments, or that process of making those appointments. We were, asked to serve, we are serving, but at this point, something's gonna be a new committee, and, that process will be taken by the township board of trustees.
Also, one thing that Jessica mentioned was, I think she said that on the website, there will be a form that people can fill out, the public can engage with, or go to the website, fill out a form if they want to, volunteer for a committee. So whoever's out there listening should take advantage of that if they
Right.
want to be part of this.
I believe that is a process. Do you know, Anna, is that?
Yeah, that is currently, it's on the website. I'm not sure exactly how to get there right off the top of my head, but I believe it's under Democracy, Township Board, Commission, and Committees.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's an apply link right there.
So obviously, first of it dependent if the township board approves this new committee, P3 committee, and then if they, whatever their charge is, how many people are on it, all those things are set by the township board. And, some of the appointments, like Chris is from planning, there's other, LPC, Liz was from LPC when we were TAP, and Norm was from Parks. Then we had a township trustee, which happened to be Patrick McLaughlin. For that, it was
Jane.
Jane, right? Jane. So the whole makeup is all set, and so at this point, we're not sure when they'll be in a Parks, Pathways, and Preserves committee form, and when the next meeting would be, and then there'll be sort of start over, create a new committee, have some meetings, set some dates, and elect the chair and all that stuff.
Again, that's a board thing to do, but how much input are they asking for you in terms of formulating the committee? How many people, when to get it started and all that? Is there much of that infrastructure that they're asking you to be part of?
I've been very involved in the steps taken thus far to create the charge and edit the ordinance and millage. In terms of us appointing folks to the committee, that's really under the board and Will Hathaway. I don't believe I'll have a role in that.
Yeah, so last couple of weeks, Rita, myself, and Anna sat down and went through the millage policy, the charge for the committees, and the combined committee, sort of created a combined committee, looked at the ordinance. The ordinance is more township legal stuff, and we made some recommendations, but sort of that. So that's what the draft is in here, which then is being reviewed by the township attorney, township staff. So I think at this point, we pushed it up, and now some version of that will probably be before the township board next Tuesday. And I think, and at that point, where it goes from there is, there.
Gotcha.
Township board process.
Great.
So I think that's the best understanding we have at this point.
So did we want to look at the charge with this group to make sure that they feel like we're on the right?
We didn't include it in here, and
Oh, is it,
Yes,
you
sir.
have it in your, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, actually, since you brought it up, I don't know if you have a couple of minutes. Norm brought up a really good point last meeting about the ways in which, even though, yes, the charges are similar, there are some very distinct differences. And a lot of the detail and a lot of the things that you guys are specializing in, the TAB committee, of course, for good reason, doesn't have a clue about that stuff. And there's some things vice versa. So I'm wondering, in the charge, which I'll be honest, I have not read it, so it could be including some of these things, but to Norm's point, those far-flung differences between the committees, has anybody had a chance to sort of really go through and see where that range of things are, how they're going to be dealt with in the new committee? Any of that?
That's kind of what we did when we went through the charge.
Okay.
There a lot of things they would, it was stated that what Parks' role was and what TAP's role was. And so when we did the rewrote the charge or went through it. We took away changed that language to make it reflect that it would be the P3 committee.
Okay.
And then also, as far as TAP, one of the things we talked about was how we will be focused, the P3 committee will be focused on pathways that are mostly recreational. So things like bike lanes and sidewalks, especially in neighborhoods. That's not coming out of our budget, and it's not something that we're necessarily doing. And now that, there's a little noise about that maybe but that will have to be decided by the board too. What exactly our role will be as far as like, I just don't see us designing neighborhood sidewalks.
Sure, yeah.
But if it's a pathway to a park, then maybe.
Yeah, and I think just to support what you're saying, the edits that we made are supported by the millage.
Oh, good.
So we were
Okay.
trying to line everything up.
Sure.
Because things have changed. We've got a director, we've got a millage. We just needed to kind of bring it together and fine tune it a little bit. So we did our best to just sort of change the language so that it reflected like, here we are now. This is where we are.
Yeah, wonderful.
So.
Thanks for doing that.
Right, and hopefully, I guess one thing I'm thinking, when the township board does appoint new people on the committee, hopefully there are some people from previous committees, because it'll be pretty challenging for Anna if she starts with 9 new people that aren't familiar with either the previous 2 charges, but that'll be something else. But that was one focus when we looked at the millage. It seems like it's more recreation driven. So I think what we've talked about is the township also had a millage for roads. And in that, initially in 2012, it was supposed to be set aside for transportation alternative plans. Didn't happen in 2012, it didn't happen in 2020. So hopefully if there's a new road millage initiative, there would be money set aside dedicated for the sidewalk connections that actually are transportation related. Also, there's a bus millage that expires in 2024. That's another time you could say, okay, if the operating AAA and TA needs $10, I'm just grabbing the number, so it's like, but also they probably need some bus stops and need some facilities. That's going to be additional $3 or whatever the number is. So then if you run those numbers for a millage, like, okay, you probably should have some for operating, but also to improve infrastructure so people can ride the bus.
Yeah.
So those are some things between roads. So that's where we say, okay, this focus will be more recreation. Obviously, some people are going to use it for transportation, but then the other committees could also pick that up. So at the end of the day, I guess I look at, the non-motorized network in Scio Township in Washington County. They're all sort of interconnected, and a lot of people won't see the difference. But the goal of this is, okay, this would connect neighborhoods to parks and other things to parks and recreation preserves, those type of things. And then also it'd be a network of non-motorized that you could walk to Meyer, or walk to the city of Ann Arbor, or go to the bus stop, which is, wherever the bus stop is,
I want to channel Suzanne Flowers on this one, just to remind us that crosswalks and those kinds of things, you've hit on it, but I just feel the need to channel Suzanne.
No, exactly. Making it safe for people to walk and bike and get around this community and connect to other communities. I mean, some of it, we're right between Ann Arbor and Dexter. Some people live a lot closer to Dexter than Ann Arbor. How can we make sure that we are connected to the city of Dexter, not the city of Ann Arbor and, and surrounding communities? Pittsfield Township, because it's southern ed, tied into, so all those things, how, and, it's not gonna happen. And actually the pros plan takes that sort of into account. And some of the stuff that, P3 will be, is just walking paths. Some of it just be pathways that connect this preserve to that preserve. You don't really need a paved path, you just need a walking path to get from here to there, and that type of stuff. So that's what we tried to address in here. I think we're close. Do we miss something? Possibly, but that was the goal.
Yeah, good.
And I'm still not totally clear on whether or not we'll be doing this crosswalks. Like if we do something on here in River Drive, I don't know that that's gonna come out of the parks.
No, we're talking about, there's a bus millage, that's gonna be 2024.
Right, but Rita's talking about at Van Curler, to get from
Got it.
Dexter Huron to Van Curler, there may be a need for what they call a rapid flashing beacon, those things
Right, yeah, sure.
to get across there safely.
Yeah.
I guess I could see that really you are connecting two parks, or actually more than two parks. You're connecting multiple parks, you're connecting all the metro parks, border trail and Van Curler. So I mean, it is really a parks connection. So I could see where it might come out of P3.
That all of those are, you know, that's really hard to predict and define, and I
Yeah.
think that we
Oh,
have
yeah,
to be
absolutely.
open to
Right.
discussion on where that's going to come from, and, you know, the board can cash in on, they can touch base on that too, but.
And hopefully there's flexibility in this, because not everything fits in all these boxes. Sometimes there is, crossovers. So sort of like, someone could argue, Z road path, recreational or transportation. You could argue some of these are both. But I mean, that's what we're trying to
There may
blend
be
them
some-
together.
Yeah, overlap, but then also if you're going for grants, then it'll be,
Right.
you know, yeah, we'll have to look closer and see where that comes from or.
And the rationale that Roy put together, I think, mentioning that it'll make it cleaner applying for grants is an important point. We won't be competing. We can be organized about it.
So we're done with new business, old business. Next item is adjournment. Is there a motion? Adjourn the meeting.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting, I guess. Yeah.
I've got Chris seconding.
Second it.
I always draft these things beforehand.
Oh, let's see. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So at this point,
I've got the vote was unanimous.
Recording stopped.
Never had an
so
issue.
now you can tell your secrets, Patrick. So that's how you get the minutes all. These are, you get them all done ahead of time.
I usually have 80% of them done ahead of time.
Oh.
I
You know,
spent
the
time
next
over
committee, the
weekend.
next committee needs a Patrick.
Yeah.
Someone, he's so proficient. It's like, got it, yeah. So,
This has been a great committee.
Yeah.
We got a lot done. and-
yeah. And the exciting part is the foundation has sort of been set with the millage and all, it's in the pros plan. So, and hiring Anna.
Yeah.
So I feel like, before, because I was on some of these committees probably more than 10 years ago, it sounded different committees about different things. And it felt like, okay, it's a great idea, but it's never really, it's like, but then you try to get the township board to act on it. So we're like, oh yeah, it's a good idea, but but finally, there was enough momentum, you got to put it on a ballot. Because we knew people supported it, but you just had to get it, before the voters, and now that they have, and now the pros plan's adopted, we get Anna, and hopefully there'll be a new committee, energy, and we can, and we've done some things, but we'll continue to move things forward. The next thing, I know you gotta put together a budget, which.
Like we have 10 minutes to do that.
The reality is, it's gonna be, because there's no committees, I'd be happy to help you work on some of that stuff. But, if the township board, let's say, moves on the 13th, then they open it up for people to apply for 2 weeks, but that's Christmas. So then, I don't know when the first meeting in January is with the township board.
I think it's the first week of January, somewhere in there, and then budgets are due on the 11th.
So it won't be a committee formed by the time your budget's on. So
I'm under the impression that there are like two schools of thought with the Board of Trustees right now in terms of the merger, that either everyone will be appointed on the 13th and we'll have a new committee, or we're gonna have that
Appointed on
2
the
week.
13th, but staggered.
Yeah, or we're gonna have that 2 week public application period. I'm not sure which way it's gonna go.
But can we go ahead and start the committee and then add people on? Like till we get to number 9 that we would like to
They
have?
could.
Yeah, possibly.
That would be really helpful if we could do that because of the budget,
I think we'll have to see what happens. I don't know. We'll see what happens on the 13th.
Right, because it's two schools of thought.
Yeah.
The
So
township
while
board.
you can't sleep at night, if you're staying awake just because you have insomnia, I guess you could pull out the old budget.
I
Yeah.
think you should pull out the pros plan.
The pros.
To feel much better about the world if you look at that.
Yeah, I mean, there's numbers in there and you just, in TAP, we did a multi-year budget. Like I said, I'd be happy to assist you if you want a little late. And here again, I always look at a budget, it's a draft. It's always evolving, you set it and that's a snapshot, what it'll look like on December, whatever. And when it gets approved in January, I mean, there's a process to amend the budget through the township. I mean, people don't like amending budgets, but sometimes you have to. Like, if money becomes available, it's like, why wouldn't you move some money to capture, everything's going over, but just opportunities present themselves, you try to be as flexible as possible.
I just thought of something, given again, I'm still learning, the technicalities of committees and how things work and don't work, but because we just adjourned and we're no longer TAP,
We can
Does
say
the-
anything we want.
well, no, but I mean, our subcommittee is working on a recommendation for the board, and we are a subcommittee of a defunct committee. Are they gonna listen to us? Does it matter? Are we technically out of, what did we just do?
We're on the roads.
We're still on the roads committee.
We're on the roads.
Okay, good.
So our subcommittee is not.
So 3 of the
Okay.
members of that committee are on the roads committee.
Great.
And used to be on the TAP committee.
And you-
Yeah.
And 2 of them used to be, Patrick and I used to be on TAP.
Yeah.
Until like 5 minutes ago.
Also, according to Will, though, unless you get someone to step in and replace you, you're still technically
Yeah.
an acting member, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Because then why would you put ending terms? Because if
Yeah.
it doesn't really, I don't know.
Another thing that was discussed was making the terms be 1, 2, or 3 years,
Mhm.
so that they're staggered a little bit, so we don't have like endgame.
Yeah.
We're
It's
done.
just sort of weird, the whole thing just ended and everyone.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we recommended, staggered terms. So
Mhm.
at least on TAP, ours was staggered, some of the others.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I hate to run, but I gotta actually go to
Well,
Dexter Township, talk to them about road funding.
Oh, you gonna see Rodney?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Antelope Township and, yeah.
well, I just want to say thank you all. I really enjoyed meeting you all, working with you all.
Well, hopefully you'll be
I'm sure this
back.
isn't goodbye. It's just, see you later, but, and Patrick especially,
Oh, no, not, but I know Rodney really well.
Patrick, I just wanted to say one more time, none of this could happen without you, clearly. And I mean, everybody has